There's a voice inside your head that speaks almost constantly. It comments, it judges, it narrates your experience as it's happening. It tells you what this moment means, what you should have said, what might happen next, what kind of person you are. And for most of us, this voice feels so close, so familiar, that we assume it is us. We don't just hear it, we believe it. And that's where confusion begins. This voice isn't a problem, it's a function of the mind. The mind's purpose is to create thought. The mind thinks in the same way the heart beats. Thoughts arise automatically, no effort required. But somewhere along the way, we learn to mistake thinking for identity. We assume that because a thought appears in our head, it must be who we are. But there's something simple and important to notice. If you hear a thought, there must be something in it that you need to be listening to. That listener is not the thought. Thinking is an activity. Awareness is what notices that activity. The voice in the head is always talking about your life. Awareness is present while your life unfolds. So today on this episode of Must I Evolve, we're continuing our journey with invisible cages. Welcome to Must I Evolve, a micro-learning experience where ancient wisdom meets the modern soul. I'm Andrew H. Housley, author, spiritual provocateur, and bodhisattva, doing my best to walk the middle path. This space, it's for the seeker, the skeptics, and those who feel the quiet pull for something deeper. Each episode is an opportunity, short, potent, and quietly disruptive. We explore Zen thought, spiritual lessons, personal transformation, and the subtle truths that shape us. Sometimes they appear as a question, sometimes a gentle nudge. Let's begin. So we're continuing our thought about invisible cages, and on this episode, where when we allow a thought to define who we are. Sometimes our voice says things like, this is good, or this is bad, this shouldn't be happening, you're doing this wrong, and that becomes challenging. And what can we do when our mind starts doing those kind of about faces and what appears to be criticism? We can start to work with awareness. And by using awareness, we understand that it doesn't argue. It doesn't need to explain. It just simply notices the thoughts that are coming to our mind. And the moment you recognize the voice as something you're hearing instead of something you are, clarity begins to appear. You don't have to silence the mind. You don't have to stop thinking. Trying to force silence usually just creates more noise. Silence isn't something you create. It's what you notice when you stop gripping to the sound of your own voice. There's a Zen story that points to this pretty clearly. A student asks his teacher, "Master, how do I quiet my mind?" The teacher replied, "Show me your mind and I will quiet it." The student paused, and after a moment he said, "I can't find it." The teacher smiled and said, "Then it's already quiet." That's the shift. The moment you go looking for the voice as something to observe, you step out of it. The mind continues to speak, but it no longer feels personal. Between one thought and the next, there's a pause. Not a dramatic pause, just a subtle gap. That gap isn't produced by effort. It's always been there. When you're absorbed in the voice, you miss what's already there. When you notice the voice, that becomes obvious. This is why awareness feels relieving. Not because the voice disappears, but because it loses its authority. A thought can only dominate you when it goes unnoticed. The moment it's seen clearly as a thought, it becomes just another sound passing through. You can hear doubt without becoming doubt. You can hear fear without obeying it. You can even hear self-criticism without taking it personally. The mind keeps doing what it does, but it no longer needs to be in charge. You begin to live from awareness instead of narration. So this isn't about rejecting the mind. The mind is very useful. It plans, it remembers, it solves problems. It also creates a bunch of problems. But it was never meant to define who you are. When the voice feels personal, things feel tight. When awareness is recognized, life feels more open, more luxurious. Nothing dramatic changes on the outside, but everything feels different on the inside. And this is the key insight of this episode. If you can hear the thought, it isn't you. You are the one who hears it. And the moment you recognize that, another invisible cage begins to loosen. Not by force, not by control, but by seeing clearly what was never meant to hold you in the first place. Thanks for listening to Must I Evolve? Remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be patient. That's the real practice. As for your next evolution, it doesn't live in who you should become. It lives in what already grows within you. Until next time, keep evolving, quietly, consistently, and always with no expectations.